Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I'd like to do a quick review of a relatively new offering from the Leatherman Multitool company, and that's the Signal. So the Signal is a multi-tool that's really designed explicitly for the outdoors, camping, and also survivalist market. And yeah, that's kind of interesting. Just to give you a sense of the size, here it is next to a Spyderco Delica, next to a US quarter, and also next to the Leatherman Charge, Leatherman Skeletal CX, and Leatherman Wave. So, yeah, let's just go on ahead and jump into the good, the bad, and the ugly of this particular multi-tool. Actually, first, let me talk a little bit about what the tools are on this. In addition to a knife that's partially serrated, you end up with a saw, which is kind of a pain in the neck to get out of there. But you got a saw, you got a ferro rod for starting fires, you got a knife sharpener here that I'll talk about in a second. You end up with a clip on it. Over here, you've got a bit driver as well as a, kind of wrench sort of thing. A bottle opener built into the carabiner here. This is a hammer surface, apparently. Down here, you got your standard Leatherman bit driver. You've got, come on here, an awl with a little thread holder, and you've got a can opener, which I'm going to try very hard to get to here. There we go, can opener right there. And anything else? Oh yeah, there's an emergency whistle in there. As well as your pliers with replaceable wire cutting teeth, which is a beautiful thing. So, let's jump on in this time to the good, the bad, and the ugly of your Leatherman Signal. Okay, some good things here. First off, I do appreciate the fact that they include a dedicated hammer. I mean, for me, unfortunately, I just use any surface of my wave as a hammer if I'm out and about, and that's not ideal. And the fact that they give you one with that is good, and that's just a good impact tool in general for when you want to really kind of beat on something real quick. So I do like that, and I hope that feature finds its way to other future Leathermans. It's a much more useful than, for instance, on the back of the Skeletal, just leaving that open, although for weight reduction, whatever. So that's nice. It's got a knife sharpener, and the knife sharpener actually attaches in an interesting way. I mean, it can slide back and forth freely here, but you can see that it's blocked by this little guy, which is the same button that holds the that locks the screwdrivers in place. So in order to pull off the sharpener, you need to depress this button and then pull it this way, and off it comes. And this is just a little rod that's been, well, not even a rod, but this is just a little surface, basically, that's been coated in a high-grit sort of diamond abrasive. It's not going to put a beautiful, beautiful edge on anything, and you need to have a little bit of skill to use it. But at the same time, it is going to let you sharpen a knife that you wouldn't have otherwise been able to. So that's a beautiful thing. And given the blade steel on the knife here, and the contouring here, which is fine for the serrations, you're going to be okay, which is nice. So that's good. It does have replaceable wire cutters, which is a nice thing, because those do tend to get beat up, although not so badly. This wave has been mine for many years now, and you can see that, yeah, there are a couple of dings in the wire cutting, but I'm usually pretty choosy about what wires I cut. So there's that. One cute little fact is that right here, let's see if you can see that, it's hidden in the black. Well, either way, right here, it does say 45 north, 122 west. There we go. And those are actually the coordinates to just outside Portland, Oregon, where Leatherman is based, which is cute. And then one other thing that I noticed that was a nice little touch is right here. So there's a little tab that you pull down, and that deploys basically a little arm, and that keeps the tool shut, which is a beautiful thing. Because I imagine if you actually use the carabiner and just attach this to a pack or something like that, there's a tendency to shake the tool open over time, and that allows them, basically that allows the tool to break in and pop open fairly easily relative to something like your Skeletal, which I also reviewed, yet still not, you don't have to worry about it coming open unintentionally. So those are some of the good things. It's nice that you've got this hammer surface here. It's good to have a knife sharpener, and it's well attached. It's got replaceable wire cutters, which I always appreciate. And, there are a lot of signs that they're really thinking as they're designing this. However, there are also some bad things that show that they weren't thinking that hard. So let's go there. So, a couple of bad things here. First and foremost, on the knife, this opening hole is very, very sharp. And makes it very hard to use one-handed, especially given the roughness of the action here. It's not pretty here. Maybe with 5 years of use, it'll wear in a little more, but I'm just not super impressed with the opening action there at all. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, the knife is partially serrated. Maybe in this context, when you might be cutting rope or cord or things like that, the serrations actually do make a little bit of sense, but I would much prefer to have two knives, one that is serrated and one that is not, as you get on your wave and your charge and things like that. That's something to keep in mind. Another thing to point out is that the hammer, I talked about liking the fact that there's a hammer here, but it's at a very strange angle because, usually when you use a hammer, you're swinging towards a nail in such a way that if you miss the nail, it doesn't really matter that much. In this arrangement, if you miss the nail, it's going to plunge right into your hand in almost every way, and that just strikes me as a bad idea. Given, if you're a carpenter, you're not using this hammer, but it's still, I just wish that they'd given me a hammer surface like here or something like that as well, so I could really effectively, use it in that way. I'm just a little squeamish about doing that. The awl on this strikes me as all wrong. Sorry about that. Because it's not actually sharp really at all. I mean, this edge is just finished. I mean, you can see there's a big flat portion here. And I mean, yes, it will punch through, a top or something like that if you want, but I really feel like I want this awl to be a little bit sharper. And so that struck me as off. I don't know if they just forgot a step on mine or if they're just making the awl dull for some particular reason, but that's all wrong to me. The ferro rod surround seems like it's not going to be very durable, especially if you're hitting this with the back of a knife to make sparks. I feel like this is just going to break off in a second, and I almost would prefer that they did a very shallow mount in the plastic and then just glued it in, which it seems like they've done here anyways. You've got a saw on this, but let's face it, it's not much saw. You're not cutting down trees with this thing. It's, so you got to be realistic about that. And one thing I do like, and this should probably be in good, but I just noticed it, is that the clip is on the opposite side of your Skeletool, and that makes more sense. They've actually listened and put the clip on the correct side for right side carry. It keeps the tool kind of tucked in there. So, good on you, Leatherman, for that. That's not a bad thing at all. So, for the bad, the partially serrated knife is hard to get into. The hammer angle's a little weird. The ferro rod surround isn't really going to do you much good. The whistle in there is really chintzy, by the way. I didn't mention that. And, yeah, so, there's some bad here. Let's go on into the ugly and the final verdict. So, the ugly and the final conclusion is that this is just kind of a gimmick. And let me justify that. If you are actually looking to survive in the wilds for a little while, if you're Bear freaking Grylls and you've got the training and you've got the practice and whatnot to actually go out into the forest and survive, great, have fun, but you're going to have better tools than this, and frankly, you're going to need better tools than this. I mean, in terms of a knife, if you go out into the forest expecting to live off the land with this knife, you're going to have a bad time. I don't know much about survival. That's not my shtick. If you want that, watch 50 other YouTube channels. But I feel like you'd probably be better served with an actual knife and something in a fixed blade that you can really beat on, that you can resharpen in the field fairly quickly, and that's, going to be a little bit, say, beefier. So not super impressed there. And on the same time, I mean, I feel like the ferro rod on here is just really low budget here. Similarly, I feel like your knife sharpener, you could do so much better in so much less space. These diamond-coated ones tend to wear off fairly quickly. Maybe they've done theirs well, but who knows? But either way, I feel like if you're actually going out to survive, you're going to need better tools than this. You're going to need a real saw. You're going to need, etc. And at the end of the day, if that's your goal, you might as well pack the right tools for the outdoors job and then throw in a freaking Leatherman wave or even a Skeletool if you're trying to conserve weight, although it's got its own little disadvantages. Because here you get a serrated knife and a non-serrated knife. You get a file, which can be handy because metal is still a thing. You can get a pry bar. You can get all those kinds of features, which is a beautiful thing. So I don't think that this is the one-stop shopping to keep you safe from the apocalypse that I think their marketing's going for. But you already knew that. On the other hand, if you're just looking for an EDC kind of tool, something you throw in your pocket, that way you've got tools around you, there's way too much outdoorsy bell and whistle here to really merit that. And particularly, this could actually be harmful because this is a diamond sharpener. This is going to scratch whatever is in your pocket in a terrible, terrible way. So if you just throw this in your pocket with your phone, at the end of the day, you're not going to have a phone. Maybe that's a little dramatic, but still. So you got to keep that in mind as well, that this is actively hostile to whatever you just throw in your pocket. But anyways, there are just way too many outdoorsy bells and whistles to make this useful for most people's everyday lives. I mean, how often are you really going to need a saw relative to when you're going to need, say, a file? In my life, I would much, much rather have the file. Similarly, do you really need a ferro rod and the whistle taking up half of this? Or would you rather have something like, say, a pry bar? Just thinking out loud there. And honestly, given the fact that your Leatherman Wave, and I do love this tool, is only an ounce heavier than this, and is $15 less expensive than this, to me the choice is just absolutely clear. You're going to get so much more EDC utility out of your Wave than your Signal, and so, you know, this isn't going to be a great choice for a survival-minded office drone, because this is a really terrible choice for the office. And let's face it, you're going to be doing a whole lot more officing than surviving. I sure hope, at least. I'm hoping. But anyways, the Leatherman Signal, like I said, it's a fun gimmick. And it's cute that Leatherman makes it, and, you know, why not, right? But it's probably just not a great choice for you in your everyday life to EDC. And if you're actually going to be in survival-y situations, you're going to want better tools than this. So that's kind of where I land. I don't think you need to go here. Tell me if I'm wrong for some reason in the comments. I'd love to hear about why you love and need your Signal. But that's kind of where I stand on things. I hope this has been helpful, and have yourself a wonderful day, and may you not need to start any fires anytime soon unless you want to. Bye now.